second generation of these doctors is going to catch up. That's the problem.
Not quite. I don't want to speak too much. I don't want to speak too much because I'm not.
So what diversity initiatives are really about is ensuring meritocracy at work.
What we can't do is have people on high salaries, over 100K, some of these people, doing nothing but troubling those in the front line, those that are in the emergency room, those that are doing cancer treatments and so on. We've got to see evidence of benefit, and so far I haven't seen any.
And Nels, I mean, we need to see evidence. And actually, if you...
These debates are insane. They were debating DEI initiatives in healthcare. As was mentioned here, the NHS is already incredibly diverse. Not that that should be a target to aim for. I'm not bothered about the sex or ethnicity of the doctors. I care about whether they'll save my life or not. The professor of diversity in the debate was pushing this DEI nonsense. Then when it was put to her, there was no evidence for any of this stuff working. She simply said there's proof of inequality. Well, that was not what he said. Apparently, DEI is about meritocracy. Clearly, it's not. That's a disingenuous lie. The fact we even have a professor of diversity is laughable. We all know a lot of this DEI stuff is just activists forcing their ideology onto society. This ideology has now infiltrated healthcare. Pregnant people, not pregnant women, promoting the so-called benefits of cousin marriage. Some of these healthcare professionals are abandoning professional integrity to push ideology. And not only that, people who question it are vilified and sometimes even fired from their jobs. My friend works in the NHS, and I was going on a night out with him and all his colleagues. He told me how he has to now keep his opinions to himself because every last one of them is on the radical left and totally intolerant of any other worldview. It's one thing pushing DEI on TV commercials, but we're talking about life and death here. The oncologist in this debate rightly said there's no evidence for any of this stuff working and that frontline staff just want to be left alone to save lives without having any of this diversity nonsense forced on them. All the while, he's got this lunatic banning on about how we need DEI because of white supremacy. Then, outrageously, he brings the Holocaust up of all things. What on earth has the Holocaust got to do with the NHS? That is the level of argument from these demented activists. I feel sorry for the consultant here. Imagine trying to save people with cancer and you're being forced to hit your diversity quotas. Listen to this.
See why people want these places, these diversity roles scrapped?
Well, I can see that we're misrepresenting what diversity work is really about. And I think that's not helpful for the debate. So what diversity initiatives are really about is ensuring meritocracy at work and making sure everybody can thrive and perform at their best, regardless of their race, ethnicity, gender, or class. And so I see diversity very much as an enabler of meritocracy at work. So let's backtrack and think a little bit why we have these initiatives. With regards to the health sector in particular, the General Medical Council has highlighted in their report published just months ago a number of systemic inequalities in the healthcare sector. And so these inequalities, for instance, include slower progression rates for ethnic minority doctors, higher turnover rates for ethnic minority staff, disproportionate referrals. To address these problems, we actually need initiatives that do that.
Yeah. So it's about a meritocracy, Carol. Now, and if you think about it, if you get a broader pool. Yeah. So it's about a meritocracy, Carol. Now, and if you think about it, if you get a broader pool, you're picking talent from a broader pool, you're going to get better talent. So it's fairness, but it's actually also better.
Yes, I agree with a bit of that. The problem is medicine's based on evidence. And, you know, if I want to use an expensive cancer drug, I have to have the evidence that it's going to benefit the patient, that I'm getting value for money in giving that drug to a patient. Why don't we have the same analysis for diversity in the NHS? We just don't. It's the most diverse workforce in Europe, 1.4 million people. You just go into a room and see it's a diverse workforce. We are there already. What we can't do is have people on high salaries, over 100K, some of these people, doing nothing but troubling those in the front line, those that are in the emergency room, those that are doing cancer treatments and so on. we've got to see evidence of benefit, and so far I haven't seen any.
And Nels, I mean, we need to see evidence. And actually, if you look at some of the evidence, an independent inclusion at work panel, which was set up by the government by the last government, found that the UK employed twice as many diversity, equality, and inclusion workers than any other country. I mean, if we're looking at evidence, do we need that many people to be doing this work?
Admittedly, I don't tend to invest too much in what the previous government did because I didn't think it was an entirely serious entity. But I want to point something out. We're not having this debate in a vacuum. We're having this debate in the backdrop of the 80th anniversary of the Holocaust, as well as the 140th anniversary of the Berlin Conference. The thread tying those two things together is a concept known as ethno-supremacism, specifically white supremacy, which we are living in the resurgence of right now.
Yeah.
That is what has brought this actual debate to the fore, where we are, of course, have to make progress towards diverse, equal and inclusive workplaces. What we're seeing right now, okay, of course, on the other side of the pond, which will make its way over here, is the backlash towards this. So if you look at what happened, the first thing once the administration gets into power, the first thing they go after is pretty much the progress of ethnic minorities and how we actually make sure they continue to progress. And I think it's important that we remember these things when we're having this conversation.
Yeah, Janella, we've got to learn from history. And actually, I mean, I said about let's look at evidence. A report by the General Medical Council found that British doctors of black, Asian and minority ethnic origin and overseas trained medics working in the UK experienced, and this is what they said, persistent and pernicious inequality throughout their careers. I mean, there's other stuff as well. A previous study by the Royal College of Nursing found that white nurses were twice as likely as black and Asian colleagues to be promoted in the NHS, with minority ethnic staff overlooked due to structural racism. We're talking about racism. We're talking about history. Psychology
has to actually look into these things when you're dealing with vastly diverse populations. It wasn't that she was saying that we're going to teach anti-whiteness per se. It's a theme of study.
So taken out of context, all sorts of issues with what was said there. I mean,
but it's back to the basics. Where's the evidence that we're going to change things? Every year I have to be appraised, fair enough. Every year I have to do a diversity course and then a multiple choice. I have to do a fire management course. I have to do a cardiac resuscitation course. Those two I can understand. You need to know what fire extinguisher you. If the hospital catches fire, you may be the first person there. But the diversity course doesn't change from year to year.
But
and yet I have to do it. Why am I doing it?
So I just want to say, because you work in evidence-based. It does.
And I reject the premise there isn't evidence. There is a wealth of evidence in social science research.
What the diversity?
That
these highly paid diversity roles work. Is there evidence?
There is a wealth of evidence that the inequalities that we're trying to address are persistent and real. They're not made up. There is a wealth of evidence that we have a variety of schemes. Some of them work better than others, of course. And we should ask the question, what is the most effective way of addressing inequalities? We're all for that. We want evidence-based. But you can't say that there is no evidence because you're wiping out fields of research and practice out there. And in fact, the General Medical Council report, 80 pages long, is available to everybody to read online.
That's very different. That's because people come to the country, immigrants. My father was an immigrant to this country. He was disadvantaged. And that happens from one generation. And then the second generation, like myself, and